All right, hello everybody. Welcome to the final edition of Skype a Scientist Live for the spring 2025 semester. My name is Sarah. I run Skype a Scientist. And today we are going to be talking with scientist Sara Santos all about shrimp, how shrimp swim, why shrimp are the best. We're going to talk all about how cool they are. Sara, thanks for joining us.
Of course, happy to be here.
Awesome. So everybody, as you have questions, please submit them to the Q&A at the bottom. The chat is open, but if you can put your questions that you have for Sara in the Q&A box, we will get through as many of those questions as we possibly can over the next about 45 minutes. Since this is our last session of the semester, if you have topics that you've been dying to learn about, just send me an email and let me know. We can think about including them for the fall semester. You can send an email to Sarah@skypeascientist.com. That'll go right to me. Just like every email to Skype a Scientist, I'm the only one who works here. So that would be great. I'd love to hear what you'd want to learn about. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Sara to talk all about shrimp.
Thank you so much. And I'll share my screen. I want you first to see shrimp up close. I think that's the most important thing. Um, and hopefully I can play and you can you see my full screen?
I can.
Okay, here we go. Here's a little shrimp swimming. This shrimp is a Hawaiian shrimp. They live in the islands of Hawaii and they're quite small. So this one is not that much bigger than just the smaller part of your pinky. And you can see them swimming. You're going to see their legs, and that's mostly what I focus on. You can see their legs going at different times, right? So shrimp have 10 legs, 5 pairs. It's a lot of legs. And they beat them at different times. So they start by beating their very, very last leg. And then a little bit later, their second one, and a little bit later, their third one, and until the very last one beats. So you'll see here, the very last one will beat now, and our very first one will start at the same time. So this is a cycle that keeps going and going, and this is how shrimp move forward. And they have all these antennae and all these complications. These are all useful instruments that shrimp use to navigate. If we look at them from the top, we'll see that they sort of do what we do when we breast swim. They open their legs as much as possible, and that helps them move forward.
This is so cool.
So if we had 10 arms, 5 on each side, we could also move like shrimp. We could breast swim one leg after the other. And I know this will loop, and I'll let you watch this once more. You see the antennae from the top, and you're going to see all these legs moving forward. And you see the little hairs on the legs as well. For shrimp, hairs help them swim better. For humans, hairs help them swim worse. So, two perspectives on the same issue. And what we do and what we do in our lab is we build robots based off of shrimp. So here's our little robot swimming. It's quite fast. Once it gets going, you're not going to catch it. And here we go again. No matter how deep it is, it just works itself up to the surface, keeps going. Straight speed. So this is the last iteration of our little robot, but I want to give you the vision for the next 20 years. So we envision that we're going to have a little shrimp robot like you see in the corner. It has this yellow fairing, little antennae, it has lights going, it has little legs, and we're going to have a bunch of these, like hundreds of them. And we're going to send them into the ocean, and they're going to have cameras and lasers and all sorts of sensors that they can use to map the ocean. And you're going to see all these different robots in all these different situations in this figure. They're going to be able to talk to each other and communicate so that they can all work together and do all of these tasks that we ask of them. So now that you definitely have questions, I will be happy to answer all of them.
Um, I have a question.
Of course.
From what we saw, the shrimp from the side, and we saw the shrimp from the top. Does
Yes.
the robot also go out in addition to down? Yeah,
Yes, it does. Yes. It
really
it
cool.
also does that. I just don't really have a video, but it also
Cool.
does do that.
It does do that. Really cool. Okay, we've got already have 10 questions coming in from the chat. So let's get into it. David Lindsay Lagan wants to know, how do shrimp get their pink color?
How do sh I would guess that's a pigment, but um I think shrimp have different colors depending on the depth that you see them at. Because in the ocean, the light will only get so far down, and blue light, I think, attenuates faster, whereas red light goes all the way down. So usually if you see a red shrimp, that's because the light that went down illuminates the red particles in their body.
Yeah, believe it or not, some crustaceans, like lobsters, for example, will be completely different colors depending on what you feed them. So if you grow a little baby shrimp, or like lobster, for example, from an egg in the lab, and you feed some, I forget if it's like seaweed or something. You feed them a certain kind of seaweed that's reddish, they'll grow up to be pretty normal looking lobsters, like brown, kind of a reddish, ruddy brown. And if you feed them, I forget what the food it is that makes them blue, but for some crustaceans, their diet determines what color they end up being as adults. And
Mhm.
yeah, you can make a blue lobster just from feeding
Feeding.
it different stuff. And occasionally out in like off the coast of Maine or Massachusetts, they'll encounter a blue lobster, and it makes the newspapers every time, but it occasionally does happen in the wild.
Yes, it does happen. All about color pigmentation in
Yeah.
crustaceans.
Yeah. Martha's got a good question. What if a predator tries to eat one of the robot shrimp? We know a lot of animals in the ocean are eating shrimp.
Yes.
Um, yeah. So have you considered that?
Yes. So shrimp have this very cool escape mechanism, which is when they put their tail and their head together and they just clap them, and then they jump backwards. We want to implement that in the robot as well so that our robot can escape. They'll have sensors and they'll know, oh, something large is approaching. Let me jump out.
Cool. That's really cool. Just like a shrimp. Rebecca Burnett from Bridge Academy wants to know, how did you become a shrimp slash robotic scientist?
I am an engineer by trade. I did aerospace engineering, so airplanes and such, but I've always wanted to be a marine biologist. So I was kind of an engineer who wanted to be a marine biologist. And I thought, can I do both? And the answer is yes, you can do both. And shrimp are my favorite animal. So I thought, why not a shrimp robot?
Pretty good. Giles wants to know, how expensive are these robots to build?
These are really cheap. They're
Oh, great.
mostly 99% 3D printed. You just have to buy the little parts that go in them. So I'd say about 30 to $40 to make a full one.
Cool. Um, if they are out in the ocean, this is from Elon. If they're out in the ocean and they break, what happens? Do you just lose them? Do they float to the surface? Is there anything that happens?
Yes, if they're out in the ocean, they will float to the surface. We haven't really released them into the ocean yet, but our goal is that if they do malfunction, then they can return to their little pod and just stay there. And we'd want to anticipate that before it happens. If not, they'll surface and we have the chance of recovering them.
Very cool. Let's see. Tesla wants to know, can we buy these robots yet?
You cannot buy these robots, but you can 3D print them yourselves. A we have a repository that has these models that you can 3D print at home at no cost.
Really cool. So a lot of times robotics folks and engineers, we are looking to animals to see what like a different way of doing things, creating things could be, because we find that animals do things really efficiently. Well, sometimes anyway. You look at some of the little frogs jumping, it's not particularly efficient, but sometimes it looks we can learn things from there. So Amber from Bridge Academy wants to know, why did you choose the shrimp? Why build mechanical shrimp?
Shrimp are super maneuverable. If you look at a shrimp swimming, they can barrel roll, like they can go around so quick. They can also change their speed and direction so fast. They can go zoom, 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 and they can do this without losing a lot of their efficiency. And we wanted a robot that could do that, that could do all these things super efficiently. And shrimp seem to be a really good candidate for this.
Cool. That's awesome. Let's see. Uh, how many, okay, this is from Margaret Higginbottom. How many people worked together to create this robot, and what role did you play in that process?
Yes. So I was the first student to work on this robot, and I created the first individual leg. So I just had a little leg. Um, After this, the team really expanded. So now there's engineers at Brown University where I did my doctorate. There's people at NASA JPL, at Caltech, and also people in the Navy working in this project. So I'd say there's probably close to 20 people working on this project. So when I started, it was just a little leg. And then as more people got onto the project, the development got really, really quick. And now things are moving forward very fast. So it takes a lot of people with different expertise to get all of this going.
Great, awesome. A lot of teamwork involved in science.
Yeah.
All right, Matt Karsten wants to know, how are shrimp similar to crawfish or crayfish or crawdads? All the same thing.
Okay. Crayfish also have, I believe, some swimming appendages. But most shrimp, they sort of live in the water and they're not really in the ground too much. I believe that crayfish do like to walk around and they may use their legs just to help their walking, for them to walk faster, but shrimp really need to keep their legs beating to go anywhere. But they do have the same mechanism of beating one leg after the other.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, phylogenetically, which is to say, like when you look at like the animal family tree of these animals, I'm sure that there are shrimp that like are up swimming all the time, and there are shrimp that are like hanging out on the bottom, like the
Yes.
shrimp that we posted. If anybody looked at the email we sent, that was like hanging out on some moss, they tend to like sit on their butts, and
Yes.
different shrimp do different stuff. Shrimp is a huge group of animals, and with that comes a lot of diversity. And so, yeah, the guys that are up and swimming are up and swimming all the time. And I don't know where crayfish fall on that. If I think they're probably within that
I think they're
blob
probably close
somewhere.
to lobsters.
Yeah.
Where they do what we call jet assisted walking, which is
Oh,
they use their legs to create a jet that helps them go forward. Yeah,
cool.
that's the coolest terminology.
So yeah, we love a jet propulsion moment and an
Yeah.
invertebrate. Um, all right. Bluey Williams's class says, what is your education to work in this field? What type of degree do you have?
I have a degree in mechanical engineering, a master's in aerospace engineering, and then a doctorate in engineering. So I have done all engineering, but my degree has really been, I think, 50% uh, marine biology in some sort of like different way than I think a marine biologist would do, and also engineering. So I've looked at a lot of shrimp, I've studied a lot of shrimp, and then I use engineering methods to implement that into the robot.
Awesome. Elon wants to know, what is your favorite part of this job?
My favorite, I love watching shrimp swim. I have little pet shrimp at home. I have pet shrimp in the office. I Anyone who wants a pet shrimp, I offer pet shrimp. It's just the coolest thing to be able to look at them swim and do all sorts of crazy things. They're so graceful. They're so efficient and they don't even know it. They're just minding their own business.
That's great. One of the other questions was, can you keep shrimp as pets? So that answers that
Absolutely.
for you.
Yes. Depending on the shrimp, You can keep them as pets for up to 20 years.
Whoa, long-lived critter. Awesome.
Yeah.
Um, Matt wants to know what's the biggest predator of shrimp?
Um, I think it depends on the kind of shrimp, but when I think about shrimp and the one that ex inspired our robot, that's krill. And krill's biggest predator are whales. They
Hmm.
usually eat a lot of krill at the same time,
Yeah, for sure.
and probably
Uh, let's see. So Martha wants to know, and this is going to depend again on the species, what is the lifespan of a shrimp? You mentioned that some live 20 years.
yes. I the little shrimp that I showed right at the beginning, the Hawaiian shrimp, they can live up to 20 years.
Hmm.
I believe that little marsh grass shrimp that live in the grass in the ocean, their lifespan is around 1 to 2 years. And krill, I think, is a little bit longer, 3 to 5 years. But don't quote me on this. This is just my memory from something I read at some point.
There's like how long animals can live in captivity, which can be quite long. And
Of
then there's
course.
how long an average animal lives in the wild, particularly with animals that are prey items, like
Yes.
that are, closer to the bottom of the food chain. If you put them in captivity and you fed them and you took care of them, they can also often live a really long time.
Yes.
But actually, they mostly get eaten by whales before they get to their like longest lifespan. So this is the struggle with answering that kind of question.
Yes.
It's hard. It's hard. All right, we got a question from Kay Hobson. Do you think that other organisms might eat the robot because it looks so natural?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And that's something that we've been thinking about for a long time when we don't have the greatest answer yet. And
Hmm.
if there's any ideas out there, I welcome them. Please find my email and let me know what you think. But our goal is to make this robot out of biodegradable material so that if a whale were to eat it, then it would just degrade and it wouldn't be harmful to the whale or further pollute the ocean.
Yeah. How big are these robots?
Right now, they're about 10
Okay.
centimeters. We're trying to make them even smaller to be around 5 centimeters or 2 inches.
Whoa, cool. Um, let's see. King Montgomery, sixth grade, Westview wants to know, how do you plan on fueling the robots?
They'll have batteries. So
Battery.
we'll just put some batteries in them, and hopefully they'll have a pod that they can return to recharge and then go back out again.
Really cool. How deep do you intend on sending these robots?
I know we want to send them pretty deep, but right now, pressurizing this whole system
Hmm.
is a little bit difficult.
Yeah,
So, really focusing on the coastal systems and reefs would be our best goal right now.
cool. Um, Tesla wants to know what's the biggest and smallest shrimp in the world?
That is a great question. I can give you
Okay,
my
if you don't
answer.
know.
I can give you my answer of the scales that I've seen, but I've
Yeah,
seen 2 millimeter shrimp, and those are like so tiny. And there's shrimp that can go up to 30 centimeters or like 15 inches. They're like yay big. Usually tiger prawns tend to
yeah,
be
yeah,
really
yeah.
big.
Wow, huge. Um, okay, that we've got a lot of size questions that I'm going through right now. Let me scroll past size question. Okay. Ooh, can your robot shrimp be of use in space?
Yes, absolutely. That's really like maybe the 20, 30-year goal
Uh-huh.
uh, would be to send these small shrimp to Europa that we think has an ocean underneath a thick layer of ice. And we can release them there so they can go make measurements and see what's down there. So if we make them really small, we have a higher likelihood that we'll be able to send a lot of them to
Mhm.
space.
Cool. Mrs. Cross's class wants to know, when you were picking what animals to make a robot off of, you picked shrimp. Were there other animals that were like in consideration? Or was it like it's always going to be shrimp?
Yes, for us, it's always going to be shrimp, but there's different research teams in all of the world and in the US that use other animals that could be interesting. For example, there's a team at Penn State that uses ctenophores. These are little calm jellies about yay big that have a lot of appendages, and they are focusing on that animal. And
So cool.
I think everyone tends to have their own muse. their own model that they like. But in the end, we're all contributing to the science and to understanding these organisms.
Very cool. Um, let's see. How many, do you know how many species of shrimp there are?
I do not know, but there
Like
are a lot.
hundreds? I'm not sure. A
I
lot.
would say thousands
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
like you have the weird skeleton shrimp, which
Oh,
looks just
so
like a twig,
yeah.
and
So
then you have some deep sea shrimp that are just interesting. So
mhm.
lots of them. And I don't think we know all of them yet. There must be some out there to discover still.
Oh, for sure. In the deep sea and all that. There's gonna
Oh,
be
yes.
shrimp. There's always gonna be more shrimp. Another question from a student. Do you eat shrimp?
Yes, I personally eat shrimp. Um, a lot of people ask me, how can you still eat shrimp after you work with them? I don't eat the ones I work with, so ethically I feel okay, and morally I feel okay. I would not eat something I've worked with. They have contributed to my life in a meaningful way, and I will not eat them.
Cool. Sounds good. We've got a question from an anonymous attendee. Shrimp are
Ooh.
bendy, but the robots are rigid. Does the bendiness of the shrimp help them swim?
The bendiness of the shrimp, I believe, is mostly for their escape mechanism. They close, they put their legs together with their head so that they can jump forward. I believe that's the main purpose. I'm not sure though. But we're working on implementing that mechanism as well in the robot.
Very cool. Um, oh, interesting. We've got STEM launch, eighth grade class. What will you do if the robot shrimp rusts? Is there anything metal in this robot?
There's nothing metal in this robot. It's
Perfect.
99% plastic that we 3D print.
Great. Um, we've already, for the person who's repeatedly asking, what's your favorite part of the job? We've already answered that question. It was watching shrimp swim, which is
It's,
pretty good part of the job.
that's just
Um, how long does it take? This is from Mrs. Love's class. How long does it take to put a robotic shrimp together?
well, it depends on what you're thinking about. If it's to come up with the idea and start all of this, I would say from experience, 5 to 6 years. Uh, but if you're just talking about the little shrimp, you can 3D print it, I think, in 1 day and put it together in a half day. So everything is relatively quick once you have all the parts.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Um, Mr. Sample, actually, Zaya Clark wants to know, what is the purpose of the robot? Could it be used to potentially recover things after a disaster? What are your intended purposes?
Yes, the purposes are exploration. So there's a lot of places in the ocean that we can't really investigate right now because the robots that we use are really large. So if you wanted to go inside a reef or if you wanted to go inside a cave, you wouldn't be able to use the robots that we have now. So a smaller robot that can maneuver really well can do that. And it has a lot of purposes. For example, and I know this is the most engineering purpose of all of them, I think, if you had a pipe that had a leak, maybe you can send a small shrimp to investigate this leak and see where it is so we could fix it.
That's super cool. Also good and maneuverable. That's where the maneuverability comes in.
Exactly.
It's really hard to, so I don't know if any of you all were part of the first Lego League robotics competition in the fall. They had this like you have to solve an ocean related problem, and everybody was making robots for the ocean. And so I don't know if you got a lot of requests for this, Sarah, but
I
I got,
did, yes.
yeah, I talked to so many marine biology clubs, or I guess robotic clubs, and everybody was like, I want to study a reef, I want to make a robot for the reef. And it's so hard because you've got waves all over the place, you've got a lot
Mhm.
of structures you got to maneuver your way
Yeah.
through. It's a real engineering challenge. So
Yeah,
having a tiny, very maneuverable little thing solving the problem.
exactly.
Love it. Very cool. Oh, here's a question from Robert. In the swimming footage, it didn't look like the shrimp used its front arms at all. Are they
Mhm.
ever using their like all those appendages up front, or is it all like back powered?
Depends. If they're swimming, they will tuck in their appendages to reduce the resistance to the water. So they want to tuck everything in so that it's easier for them to go forward. If they're doing some exploration and they're trying to see if there's some food, they'll have their appendages out have them out with their little claws. Um, but usually, if they're swimming forward, they want to have them tucked in so that there's a lot less resistance to them moving forward.
Cool. Kara wants to know, do shrimp lay eggs?
Shrimp don't lay eggs, but they transport them themselves.
Yeah.
Shrimp have, when they have eggs, they have their eggs in the underside of their carapace, usually in between their legs, and there's little hairs from each leg that connect to each egg. So they can actually swim pretty well still with a lot of eggs under them. And depending on the shrimp, they may carry these eggs for up to a month and a half, for example.
Cool. So if you are ever sending these little shrimp down, the shrimp robots to collect things, to grab stuff, do you think you could use like how the shrimp carry the eggs and still able
Mhm.
to swim to like keep it under their
Absolutely.
undercarriage? Yeah.
Yes,
Cool.
this is something I have been wanting to study for a long time, and one day I'll get to it. But how they manage to still swim so fast with so many eggs?
A lot. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really impressive.
Yes.
Um, yeah. We've had a couple different people ask, did you grow up near the ocean or
Yes.
you did? Okay.
I did. I grew up in Portugal all the way across the Atlantic Ocean. And yes, in Portugal, in the beaches, there's a lot of tide pools. So I used to go see the shrimp, crabs, barnacles, mussels. There's all sorts of animals. And I've always grown up knowing that I really wanted to do something in this area.
Cool. Awesome. The next question from STEM Launch is, what is the range of the robot shrimp? How far can you get it to go?
It really is going to depend on the battery, how big of a battery you have. Right now, I know it can run for maybe 30 minutes on the battery that it has, and this is really just running constantly. One thing that we may be able to do is take advantage of the ocean currents to save some battery. For
Oh,
example,
cool.
if the ocean is pulling the shrimp one way, maybe we just let it go with the current. And when it gets to the place where we want it to go, we activate this shrimp to get out of this current and go explore.
Very cool. Um, Next question. How does water temperature affect the shrimp?
Water temperature does really not affect the shrimp that much. This is something we looked at because shrimp tend to live, they can live in the Antarctic waters that are very cold, and they can live in coastal waters that in the summer get really, really hot. So is there really a difference? Turns out there's not really that much of a difference, and they're really resilient to this temperature change, which may also help us because with climate change, the ocean is changing temperatures, and it looks like shrimp will be able to adapt.
That's great news for shrimp
Yes.
and
Great news for
everybody
shrimp.
who's got shrimp on the menu. That's good.
Yes.
We got a question from Denise. If the shrimp gets eaten, if your shrimp robot gets eaten, can you
Yes.
still get information from it? How are you getting information at all?
Yes. So the what we want to do right now is keep all the information on board this shrimp in a little memory stick. And then once this shrimp gets returned to their little pod, then the information gets downloaded. But we also plan to have the shrimp be able to communicate with each other. So possibly if one shrimp gets lost, it would hopefully still be able to communicate its information to the nearest shrimp and be recovered in that way.
Adorable. Love that. Mrs. Cross wants to know, what do shrimp use their antennae for?
Shrimp use their antennae for a lot of different purposes. They use them mostly to sense, but they have different modes for this. If they want to sense the current, or if they want to sense if there's food nearby, some chemical sensors, they have a specific set of antennae for this. And if you've seen shrimp, and if you've seen them, they sometimes flick their antennae. You can see them going like this. They do this because around the antennae, the water gets really, really viscous, and they're not really able to sense that much. But if they flick their antennae, they change the relative viscosity so that they can sense better. So that's why they flick their antennae. They also have different antennae, which are usually the ones in the front, that they can use to sense how fast the shrimp in front of them is beating their legs. so they can know what everyone else is doing when they're beating their legs, and they could all swim together, sort of like birds do in flocks.
So cool.
Very
Awesome.
cool.
All right, I got a question from a couple different people, including seventh grade Max and Mrs. Outlaws, fifth graders from Missouri. How much does it cost total to build your robot shrimp?
Uh, yeah, I think between 30 to $40 right now. If you wanted to have the shrimp, of course, the development has cost a lot of money, but
Yeah.
that's also contributed to a lot of knowledge and a lot of people having jobs and health insurance, for example. But if you want to just print the little robot, 30 to $40 should do it.
Cool. All right, we got a question from Mr. Stegman. A lot of cephalopods and other animals eat shrimp. Do you have plans to test in a lab how a predator might react to the shrimp in like a closed system? This feels like
We
an experiment that we could do
Yes.
pretty easily. Yeah.
Absolutely. This is an experiment that we have not done that yet. The one thing we have done is put shrimp in with the big robot shrimp.
Uh-huh.
They don't seem too interested
They're not
in being
interested.
anywhere near it.
Cool. I know that if you put like a toy goldfish in a tank with a cuttlefish, sometimes they'll like when a cuttlefish is interested, they like turn their whole bodies and like target on it, and they'll sometimes like do the targeting and then be like, I'm all set. But
No.
it's and sometimes they attack it anyway. But I would be very curious to watch that.
Yes.
Um that could be a collaboration we could work on. We got a question from Bridge. Where does your research receive its funding from?
The research has mostly been funded by NASA because we do want to send these robots all the way to space. And most recently, it's been funded by the Navy. The Navy is really interested in having small underwater robots to do exploration. And so most of the funding nowadays comes from the Navy.
Very cool. We've got a question. This is, I think, an important question for like all scientists to be asked because a lot of times as kids, we think that all experiments have to work. What happens if this project doesn't work?
Um, well,
Try something else.
of course, it's about the destination, but
Yeah,
the journey is really what matters. As we've gone through this journey, we have learned so much that we didn't know about shrimp, and we've also contributed a lot to robots. So failing really is just a the way you look at things. It's the perspective. We every day make discoveries. For example, we now know how shrimp can stay in the same height in the water, even though they're heavier than water. And that's something that we didn't know before, and we know because of the robot.
very cool. Yeah, I think it's easy to forget that or like not realize that science, we're failing like every day. And if we
Every
fail,
every
we
day.
wouldn't learn anything. So like the process of failure just like helps us tweak things because you're never
Yes.
going to get it right on the first try. The reason we're doing science is to learn new things. And the fact that we don't know them means we're going to get things wrong along the way. If we already knew what the right answer was, we wouldn't need to do the science in the first place. So yeah, science requires failure, and that's not a bad thing. We're so used to failing being bad, but it's not bad. It's just like it's just breathing. It's just part of
Yeah.
it.
It's really a natural part of the process. And if you don't learn what you think you were going to learn, you'll learn something else.
Yeah, totally, totally. A lot of really important scientific discoveries were discovered trying to learn about something entirely different.
That's
So
how I feel
true.
my
Yeah,
career has gone.
yeah,
I was looking at something that I was like, huh, that's really interesting. And then we go another direction.
for sure. All right, we got B9ers, third grade class. Are there any poisonous shrimp?
Not that I know of.
I also don't know of any. I'm trying
No,
to think of any
I
like
think
even venomous shrimp, and
I think the most dangerous part of the shrimp is the little hook. Yep.
yeah. Let's
Uh,
talk about that because that's not a thing everybody knows even exists in the first place. Yeah,
yes, I don't know too much about it, but shrimp have like little hooks on sort of like a unicorn has its horn.
yeah.
Shrimp have um, sort of a
A
mohawk.
spike. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a spike, and that can get stuck in you if you're not careful. But I think that's the most dangerous part of a shrimp.
Yes, I'm like little I'm doodling one as we talk so you can see what the heck we're talking
I
about.
I appreciate that. I don't
Um,
think my
'Cause
explanation is too.
I've gotten the business end of one of those a couple times. So okay. It looks kind of like this. Like this is the
Yes,
shrimp guy, and then there's this like uh, knife that comes out of the shrimp's head. And most of the time you can't see the knife. The knife is like tucked in here, in between all the little appendages happening over here. And then if you grab a shrimp in the wrong direction, I mean, it's so
yes,
sharp. It hurts so bad. And I'm wondering
yes.
even if there's something like on there that is venomous. I'm not sure. But
Yeah, I
it,
don't.
wow, it hurts. So that is part of the defense mechanism of a shrimp.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. How much time? We're doing good on time. Okay. Let me read more questions. Okay, here's a good question from Hedrick. I don't know what their first name is. Let's say we've talked a lot about animals eating these robots, and I think that's just like too juicy a question to not keep coming back to. But
Of
we
course.
know that eating batteries is not something we should do, certainly. Eating
Of course.
batteries are not good for you. Is it possible in engineering land to make a non-toxic battery?
Yes, I'm sure it is. I'm sure if it's something that we want to do, we will certainly get there. It it may not be as fast as we'd like, and it may take some investment, time, and money. But anything we set our minds to, I think we can do
Well,
in the long term.
we need a funder that really cares about the animals that are eating the shrimp
Yes.
robots. And that's how we're gonna get there. Um, All right, we got another question. What's like the max speed that the robots can currently achieve?
Right now, they can do 1 body length per second, which means they swim their length in 1 second. Right now, the shrimp is about 30. That one was 30 centimeters or 15, around 15 inches. That's how fast it goes right now.
Cool. We've had a lot of people ask, where can we download the pattern to 3D print?
Yes, so the link is on Zenodo.
I
This
think
is
maybe if you send it
open
to me,
source.
I
Yeah,
can email it out to all the classrooms that attended today,
absolutely.
and then you'll just have it at
Yes.
your disposal.
And
So
then,
you don't have to be like writing down a thing, right?
yes, you'll
Perfect. All
be
right,
able
we'll
to
send it
download.
to you. Check your emails after this. Um, okay, we're still good. What is, in your opinion, the wildest looking shrimp?
The skeleton shrimp. I think that's, I mean, it looks like a twig. It moves like a twig. It should be a twig, but it's a shrimp.
Yeah, it's a really goofy looking one for sure.
Yes.
Um, okay, can your robot work in both freshwater and saltwater?
Yes.
Okay.
Right now it works only in glycerin, which is much more viscous.
Oh,
And we do this to match the viscosity. If the robot was really small, it would feel the same viscosity in water as our larger robot feels in glycerin.
yeah, this is one of those things that like is not intuitive, but is true. The
Yeah.
smaller an animal is, the harder it is to move water around you. Um,
Yes.
and this is just like one of those things in physics that is true, even if it just seems goofy. Because we're used to water feeling the same kind of
Yes.
all the
Of
time.
course.
You can move through it kind of easily. But when the way that water kind of sticks to itself, as you get smaller, it gets goopier, kind of.
Yes.
And it's just a thing. So
It's
yeah,
sort of like honey. So the little
yeah,
shrimp, they would feel like they're swimming in honey when we feel water as we feel it.
riding through it. Yeah. So cool and weird. Oh, here's a good question from UA. Is it possible to create a robot shrimp large enough for a human to ride it? Asking
Absolutely.
questions.
Yes. Absolutely.
That would be so cool.
Um, would that be the most efficient? I don't think so, because the little animals that move with their legs like this, they're sort of all very small, and they tend to not get any bigger than like 3 feet or 1 meter.
Mhm.
After that, we think it's not efficient. So then the animals that are bigger, like manta rays or whales, they tend to kind
Flat,
of have their fins. But
rolling.
you could absolutely make a shrimp that you could ride in. I just don't know that you'd go anywhere.
Good to know. I know that free divers have these like little thing, like they almost look like
Like
fans
the
they hold
torpedoes.
on
Yeah.
to. And that helps them like get down far enough without having to expend energy. Um, cool. Cool questions. All right. Okay. Where is the placement of a shrimp size and how does that compare to where like the robot's sensors are?
Of the shrimp size.
I,
Um,
yeah.
oh, eyes. Um, so you'll have some of the sensors will be at the front, like a camera and a laser, and then some of the sensors will be in the antennae. We're trying to integrate the sensors in the antennae, but we think all of it will be in front of the eyes, like sort of ju in geometrically.
Cool, cool. Um, do shrimp have nerves?
I'm sure they do.
They do.
Yes.
Um, and do they feel things? Yes, they do.
Oh, yes. They
Yeah,
feel things for sure.
for sure.
And if they feel you trying to grab them with your hand, they're going to
They're out of there. Yep.
out of there.
All right. Next question. From Margaret. How can you tell the gender of a shrimp? Is there gender in shrimp?
Yes,
There's sex in shrimp. Yeah.
there is sex in shrimp. The I am not sure if this is true for males and females, but for females for sure, their very first appendage, instead of having the two rami that go like this, they
Mhm.
only have one of the little rami. So um, that allows them to accommodate more eggs on that part.
Cool. And are the rami the swimmy legs?
Yes, they're the little swimmy legs. Usually depends on the shrimp. For the Hawaiian shrimp, the females will usually have some cluster of eggs on top of their head that you can see before the male shrimp comes in.
Cool. This is a good question. So presumably the shrimp is programmed, the robot shrimp is like
Yes.
programmed with something. What coding language do you use when coding this?
Right now we're using the language native to the Arduino that we use. We're changing now from the Arduino to a Raspberry Pi, which is just a different type of small computer. I believe we're going to change the language as well. Uh, Us as engineers, we do most of our coding in MATLAB, which is a programming language not too different from Python, which is open source.
Okay, cool. Um, okay, where do skeleton shrimp live?
That's a good question. I know they live in
I have
rocky
no idea.
formation. So if you'd have a rock, you'd have a lot of skeleton shrimp. I'm not quite sure where they live, but um, if you are curious, please Google some skeleton shrimp. And
iNaturalist probably can tell you. iNaturalist, if
yeah,
anybody's not familiar,
yes.
you can look to see where people have seen animals. This is tough for deep sea animals because there aren't a lot of like regular people
Hmm.
in the deep sea, but otherwise for anything that lives in any kind of shallow water where people are swimming or scuba diving or where people are just walking around, iNaturalist is so good for figuring
Absolutely.
out like, does this thing live near me? Is there any relatives of those things that live near me? It is great and free.
Yes.
We love it. Okay, we are out of time. Thank you everyone for answering or asking all of these questions. We had 133 questions that we didn't get to and 65 that we did. So we got through as many as we possibly could. We also got through a bunch from the chat. We always ask everybody the same two questions at the end of every session. The first question is, if you had everyone's attention in the whole world and you could ask them or you could tell them one thing about your area of expertise, what would you tell them?
Ooh, that is a tough question.
It's hard.
It is hard.
The next one's even harder.
Um, I will say for engineering, you don't have to be good at math to be an engineer. Don't don't think that you can't be an engineer because you're not good at math or you're not good at chemistry. If you want to be an engineer, just go for it. I failed math in high school and I'm still an engineer because you can learn, you can get better with practice. So just keep going. Don't let those things deter you from doing something you really want to do.
Great. Awesome. It's a good message. The next question is, you still have everyone's attention in the whole world, and you could tell them one thing about absolutely anything. It could be related to your area of expertise or not. What do you tell them?
I tell everyone just to be curious. Just ask questions. Don't be afraid of asking something and feeling judged by other people because you don't think it's a smart enough question. Just keep asking all the questions. Be curious um, and want to learn. Just want to learn as much as possible and just be curious. That's my philosophy, at least.
Excellent. Cosign that being curious is the best. Strongly
Yes,
encourage. All right. Thank you for taking the time to share all this with us. Is there, we will send out a link to the 3D printing instructions.
yes.
Is there anything else you want us to be aware of before we say goodbye?
Um, Not really, I don't think. I don't have
Cool.
sort of a big presence, but
Sounds good.
happy to share the instructions. Happy to have people email me with further questions at any point. I'm always happy to chat. So anything, and always happy to inspire the next generation of scientists to keep this work going.
Amazing. All right. Thank you so much. Ramona, thank you for signing. We appreciate you. Everybody at home, this was the last one of the semester. Thank you for being here. We will get up and running again in September. And again, if you have an area of science that you want to know about, first of all, you can always request a scientist for your group, whether it's a after school club, a scout troop, a classroom, a library, any group of people that wants to talk to a scientist. We offer connections for free to have Q&A sessions just like this, except just for your group, not having to compete, I guess, with other people to ask questions. So that's free. You should tell people. We have a lot of scientists in our database right now that aren't matched. So please teachers, tell other teachers that we exist. We are free. We are here for you. So sign up, get a match. We match once a week, all through the summer, all through August until August, and then we'll start again for the fall. So please tell people we exist. Skypeascientist.com. Um, Otherwise, we have cute stuff on our shop that keeps the lights on, that pays for everything that we need to exist, at squidfacts.bigcartel.com. You can also get that link on skypeascientist.com. Lots of cute educational art, etc. I'm going to stop talking now and let you get on about your day. Thank you all for being here. We will see you in the fall. Bye.
Bye.